Welcome to the untamed trails of history, where gunfire echoes still resonate through the sands of time. Buckle up, folks, as we saddle up and ride through the most violent gunfights of the Wild West. Drawing first blood of the infamous gunfight at the OK Corral. It's 3 p.m., October 26, 1881. The Arizona sun scorches the dusty streets of Tombstone. The tension brews for months. Two sides at odds. The Earp brothers Wyatt, Virgil, and Morgan, alongside their friend Doc Holliday, squared against the outlaw Cowboy gang. Each side has a powder keg ready to explode, and explode it did. The gunfight blinks, and no miss it. A mere 30 seconds of explosive fury. 30 shots ring out in the narrow lot behind the OK Corral. In this brutal exchange, 3 Cowboys meet their end. Billy, Clanton, Tom, and Frank McLaury had their lives snuffed out in a haze of gunpowder and lead. Though brief, the OK Corral's echoes resonate through the ages. It's more than just a violent skirmish, it's a symbol. A representation of law versus lawlessness in the untamed frontiers of America's past. But here's the curious fact. The confrontation didn't take place at the OK Corral. Yes, it's named after the famous livery stable, but the shootout happened in a vacant lot nearby, 6 doors down on Fremont Street. A testament to the myth-making power of the Wild West. The gunfight's aftermath? Wyatt, Earp, and Doc Holliday faced murder charges. Acquitted, yes, but their lives were forever shadowed by these 30 violent seconds. The Wild West, an era of quick decisions, quicker draws, and lifetimes of consequences. So the OK Corral, a violent spectacle that wasn't the longest or bloodiest, but its legendary status endures. A 30-second showdown that encapsulates the essence of the Wild West law, lawlessness, and the thin, blurred lines separating the two. The Lincoln County War, Billy the Kid's bloody stand. Enter Lincoln County, New Mexico, 1878. A time of chaos, a place of conflict, the Lincoln County War. At the heart of it, one figure stands out. An outlaw, a gunfighter. A legend, he's Henry McCarty, but you might know him better than Billy the Kid. This war wasn't fought on some distant battlefield. It was a deadly power struggle, pitting 2 factions against each other. The established Murphy-Dillon faction versus the upstarts Tunstall-McSween sought to break the monopoly on dry goods and cattle trading. Billy? He's Team Tunstall-McSween. But this wasn't a simple story of loyalty. It was a narrative of revenge. Billy's employer, John Tunstall, is gunned down by Murphy-Dillon's men. An act that lights the fuse on Billy's powder keg of vengeance. Now, picture this. Billy and his gang, the Regulators, are embroiled in a vicious firefight against a posse led by Sheriff William Brady, a Murphy-Dillon man. Brady and his deputy meet a violent end in this confrontation, marking one of the most pivotal moments of the Lincoln County War. However, it's a surprising fact Billy the Kid wasn't the cold-blooded killer the lore paints him to be. Sure, he was an outlaw, but most agree he only pulled the trigger when cornered. He was even granted a pardon later, though sadly, it arrived posthumously. So what happened to Billy? His life ended as violently as it had been led. In 1881, he was shot down by Sheriff Pat Garrett. A tragic end, but it fueled the legend we know today. The Lincoln County War, a brutal chapter in Wild West history. A chapter where bullets and bloodshed blurred power, law, and justice. And at its core, Billy the Kid symbolizes the era's rebellious spirit and devastating cost. Wild Bill Hickok's Dead Man's Hand, a showdown at Deadwood. Deep in the Black Hills of Dakota Territory in the summer of 1876 unfolds a tale of poker, gunfights, and the legendary Dead Man's Hand. The central figure? James Butler Hickok, better known as Wild Bill, was a former lawman, scout, and one of the most feared gunfighters of the Wild West. Wild Bill was a magnet for trouble. His reputation made him both revered and a target. While he participated in several shootouts, one stands out not for its ferocity but its tragic conclusion. It's the Showdown at Deadwood, a notorious mining town where the law was often a stranger. Wild Bill, engrossed in a game of poker at Nuttall and Mann's Saloon No. 10, makes a fatal mistake. He sits with his back to the door. Jack McCall, a drifter with a grudge against Wild Bill, seizes the opportunity. He storms in and yells, "Damn you, take that," and shoots Wild Bill in the back of his head. The feared gunfighter falls, cards still clutched in his hand, aces and eights, black suit, now known as the Dead Man's Hand. But here's an unusual fact. Despite his fearsome reputation, it's estimated that Wild Bill only killed between 6 to 7 men in gunfights. He was more a man of the law than a lawless killer. Still, his legend persisted, often fueled by his storytelling. So Wild Bill Hickok was gunned down not in a lawless shootout, but in a saloon over a poker game. A stark reminder of the harsh and often arbitrary realities of life in the Wild West. The Showdown at Deadwood and the Dead Man's Hand, They become enduring symbols of this lawless era where legends were born in the time it took to pull a trigger. The Frisco Shootout and the reign of Tom Horn. Let's roll back the calendar to December 19, 1901. The place? The rough and tumble mining town of Frisco, New Mexico. The event? The Frisco Shootout is a violent clash involving one of the oldest West's most controversial figures, the notorious Tom Horn. Tom Horn, a name that rings with infamy. He wore many hats: scout, lawman, detective. But the hat that fit him best was that of a hired gun, a ruthless mercenary who brought his brand of justice to the Wild West. A frigid winter's day, as a deputy sheriff, Horn faces off against two desperados, Geronimo Miranda and Martin Blevins. Shots ring out, echoing through the snowy streets of Frisco. When the gun smoke clears, both outlaws lie dead, their lives claimed by Horn's unerring aim. But here's where it gets interesting. Horn's brutal methods stir controversy. Was he a lawman bringing criminals to justice, or a cold-blooded killer using the badge as an excuse for murder? The line, like so much in the Wild West, is blurred. Facts can be as elusive as shadows in the Wild West. Despite his violent methods, Horn was credited with settling feuds and maintaining order. The Frisco Shootout underlines the ambiguity of law and order in the Wild West. Tom Horn, a man who embodied this complexity, a lawman or a killer. The Wild West, it seems, was a place where you could be both. It's where blazing barrels often wrote the rules and men like Horn wielded the pens. Dodge City War, the bitter feud that split the Cowboy capital. Let's transport ourselves back to 1883 to a place fondly known as the Cowboy capital of the world, Dodge City, Kansas. However, beneath the festive cattle town veneer, Dodge City hides a simmering tension that eventually boils into the Dodge City War. This bitter feud splits the city down the middle. The divide? It's a clash between two factions. The old guard, including Mayor Alonzo Webster, against the new, led by Lou Short, a saloon owner and gunfighter. The catalyst? A city ordinance against saloons and gaming clubs, primarily aimed at Short's Long Branch Saloon. This doesn't sit well with Short, and sparks fly. An armed standoff, the city's streets thrumming with tension. Short, backed by famed lawmen and gunfighters like Wyatt, Earp, and Bat Masterson, against a faction of city officials and their hired guns. Once bustling with cattle trade, Dodge City now braced for a violent conflict. It's a war of threats, standoffs, and show of force. Short and his allies' reputations are enough to make the city officials back down. The Dodge City War reveals a unique facet of the Wild West. Not every conflict was resolved with a shootout. Sometimes reputation and intimidation played a crucial role as a well-aimed bullet. This standoff represents a pivotal moment in Dodge City's history, where tension, more than gunfire, ruled the day. We've seen legends rise, feuds explode, and towns stand defiant. We've walked in the shadow of some of the most notorious gunfighters and witnessed their brutal reign. Now it's your turn. Tell us which gunfight fascinated you the most. Shoot a comment down below, and if you felt the thrill of our journey, tip your hat to us by hitting the like button. Want more riveting tales from the depths of history? Click the subscribe button.